people at Google don't even know how Google works. And I think that's a big part of why I think our industry should exist, frankly, because it's a complicated system. The meta description tag was, before the test, was kind of carefully written. A copywriter had written these things. And we actually found that literally removing the tag outperformed.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AI SEO Insider podcast. I'm Raulf, an AI SEO and GEO expert. I'm also the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing, a boutique agency here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. This podcast cuts through the AI hype and features people getting real results. If you're a marketing professional, business owner, SEO, AI expert, or agency owner trying to figure out how AI fits into your strategy, you're in the right place. My guests and I talk about implementations, results, and practical tactics you can use immediately. I'm genuinely excited about today's conversation. Will Critchlow, did I say that correct, Will?
Yes, you got it.
Cool. Will, you're the CEO and co-founder of SearchPilot, and here's why that matters. While everyone in our industry debates what Google wants or speculates about how AI search works, Will's team has actually been running thousands of actual tests on enterprise websites to find out what really moves the needle. Will, I had like this intro for you, but hey, I think why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, like a little bit about your background, SearchPilot. What do you do right now?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on, and it's great to be here and great to talk to you. So you've covered the fundamentals. At SearchPilot, we work primarily in retail, e-commerce, and travel, and we help really big websites. You mentioned kind of enterprise brands, and our customers are folks like Marks and Spencer, Petco, and so forth. You can find a load more at searchpilot.com. And we're running these experiments to try and help them take SEO into what we call control mode. So rather than this realm of trying to operate through best practices and guesswork and combing through analytics to try and figure out if something has actually worked or not, we're trying to bring a bit of science to that. So we're a technology platform as a software provider, but my background is in SEO consulting. And so I've been in this industry for a long time now. My co-founder and I started an agency called Distilled way back in 2005. And that kind of first 10 or 15 years of SEO consulting taught us a lot. And it was out of that we grew what we're doing today. In particular, we just over and over again found that our big clients struggled the most with getting things done and proving the value of the work that they'd done. And they were struggling to speak the language of the business, to impress leadership, to get the resources and the investment and the prove the ROI that they were getting, even when the project went well. And that's intensely frustrating. And so we kind of brought together the business side, the SEO side, the technology side into what we're doing today at SearchPilot.
Awesome. Cool. And you're located in the UK, where specifically?
Yeah, I live in a town called St Albans, which is an old Roman town, but it's just outside London. So from the distance you're looking at it at, I effectively live in London. My nearest airport is Heathrow and whatever. So I'm 20 minutes on the train to St Pancras, which is
nice. Yeah,
the best train station in London. But we're just that little bit further out, so it has the benefit that the dog can be off the lead from the front door. The kids can walk to school. Those kinds of things. Nice. It's quite a chill, nice place, and it's also, I think, the most pubs per capita in the UK, because it's the headquarters of the Campaign for Real Ale, and so we have some amazing pubs, including I think the oldest one in the country. If you're ever in the UK, St Albans is a wonderful place to visit. Short 20 minutes.
That sounds like heaven to me. I'm actually going to be there in March. I think we're in a super tight schedule, but I will definitely look you up when I'm back there.
It's a great place to visit.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, let's dive into this. So I've personally been doing SEO for nearly 30 years before Google was actually called Google. And I've seen
Alta Vista, Hotbot, Ask Jeeves.
I remember the days.
Yeah.
So I was getting my business and marketing degree, and one of my teachers came to class and he's like, "Hey guys, I found this new search engine. They just rebranded from Backrub to Google." And he's like,
Amazing.
"Hey, you should buy stock in this company." Of course, I didn't do that, or until, not very much later. Anyhow, so I've been doing this for a long time, right? And I've seen a lot of best practices come and go. Well, what's the most surprising thing your testing has revealed that contradicts conventional SEO wisdom?
Got two answers to this. The most personally surprising test that we've run is, and I've talked about this once or twice before, is that we have seen on occasion reordering the HTML of the page have an effect, whether positive or negative, right? So imagine the body copy, right? The core
Hmm.
text part of the page, moving that up in the HTML source code. So nothing changes for the user. Your CSS can display the menu and the things in whatever order you want to. So the page looks exactly the same, but just restructuring the HTML has had a statistically significant impact in more than one case. And that just shouldn't be true, right? The search engines should be completely agnostic to the ordering of your HTML. There's no human benefit to why website A that has one kind of HTML ordering should be a better or worse user experience for a particular search result than website B, which has a different one. So that's a kind of silly one, but genuinely the most surprising to me. The one that kind of goes against, I guess, quote unquote, best practices is, and this is more of a how much should we listen to Google question, is Google has repeatedly in many forums said that, especially on mobile, they don't mind if you've got some text on the page that's in accordions or collapsible, like widgets, that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
imagine an e-commerce product page and you've got things like the specifications, you've got things like detailed information about the product, and they're in little drop-down tabs. And if Google has said, we don't mind if those are open or closed by default when the page loads. That's the official line. We have repeatedly seen that having it visible on page load, in other words, having those things expanded, beats having them closed. And I can see arguments why that may or may not be the case. You can imagine user experience
Yeah.
arguments that explain it. My best explanation for why Google has been wrong about this is not that they're deliberately misleading. It's that it's a complex system. And I can easily believe that they don't have any line in their algorithm. They don't have a line in their code that says, if the thing is closed, then downweight by whatever. I suspect it's a complicated interplay of user experience and machine learning, deep learning signals, and so forth, that their system has learned that it's better to have these things open. And so Google doesn't even know. The people at Google don't even know
Yeah.
how Google works. And I think that's a big part of why I think our industry should exist, frankly, because it's a complicated system.
Yeah.
And when you've built this system, that doesn't necessarily mean you know the right marketing actions to take to perform within that ecosystem.
Well, I mean, essentially, proof is in the pudding, right? I actually never would have thought about that. It comes down to testing, and that's what you guys do, right? So I'm actually super excited to hear that. It's obviously we implement, those accordions for our clients. So that's a great takeaway for me personally. Um, Obviously, I did research about, your teachings when you do other podcasts. So you mentioned that you talked about removing content can actually improve rankings in some tests that you've done. That's sort of counterintuitive to
Mm-hmm.
everything most SEOs believe. Walk me through, or do you have a specific example where less was generally more?
There's a few different cases of this. So one example is probably the less surprising end, is just really bad content, right? If you've just got that kind of, think about your, again, e-commerce product listing page, your category page, and you scroll all the way to the bottom past all the little pictures of the, whatever they might be, right? The sneakers, and you go all the way to the bottom, you keep going, and you find a bit of text that's probably called something like div ID equals SEO underscore content, right? And you've literally called it SEO content, and it's really small and it's kind of gray and it's on the white background. You can't kind of quite read it, and it's completely database driven. As you know, we have 723 pairs of sneakers in stock, and they range from, $60 to $150 in price, and it's literally just database queries, SQL generated content. We've found sometimes that removing that kind of terrible content is actually beneficial, right? It's actively harmful sometimes.
Yeah.
And none of the things I say in this should be taken as hard and fast rules. The biggest thing we've learned is that you have to test, right? And that's I think it's good for us. But most of these things, they generalize as ideas. They don't generalize as results necessarily. But anyway, that's one kind of example. Other examples, we've found that shorter but high quality content can do better than longer low quality content. I guess that's relatively uncontroversial. Probably the most surprising example of this is, I don't know if you count it as content exactly, but we had one example of removing meta descriptions resulting in beneficial outcomes. And this was literally just getting rid of the meta description completely off the
Really?
page.
So like title, description tags, or image alt tag? Like what elements are you specifically talking
literally,
about?
so I'm talking here about in the head of the page, the meta description tag was before the test was kind of carefully written. A copywriter had written these things, and we actually found that literally removing the tag outperformed. And the reason, when we dug deeper and deeper into this, because this was a surprising one and we wanted to understand why, and the reason we were running it incidentally was we were trying to quantify, we actually weren't expecting it to be a winner. We were trying to quantify the benefit of the title tag. We thought, of the meta tag, we thought that the meta tag was valuable, and we just weren't sure how valuable. And the question was, how much should we invest in copywriters? How much should we spend writing these tags across tens of thousands of pages? And we accidentally found that not only were they not valuable, they were actually negatively valuable. And the reason turned out to be that this was a highly localized website. So people were doing searches with a lot of location queries in them, and the single page was ranking for a very wide range of search queries. So each individual product page or location page, I think it was not just ranking for the obvious keyword, right? It was ranking for all these variations of the keyword. And what it turned out happened was that when the meta description was present in the HTML, Google was showing that meta description, as you'd kind of expect. But when it was missing, Google wrote its own snippet. And the snippet that Google wrote didn't have to be the same for every query. And so, when you see that the display in the search results can be bolded depending on what you've searched for. When Google wrote the snippet, they were more often pulling in the words that the person had used in the search query, and therefore those things were showing up as bolded, and so that it was getting a better click-through rate, more compelling. It seemed more compelling. More people were clicking on it.
Yeah.
Precisely, not because it was necessarily, no one of these Google written descriptions was better than the original, but they were unique. Each one was customized to what that person was specifically searching for at that moment. And it was bolded in the ways to show that searcher that it was relevant for them. And so it was outperforming. And so even though these things on the face of it looked like they were worse, right? The Google snippet was worse than the meta description. It wasn't as well written. It wasn't as grammatically correct and whatever else. In fact, it was a bit of a jumble. It was relevant, and relevancy was trumping everything, and users were clicking on it.
Wow, fascinating. Fascinating. You've introduced this concept of fan out queries, where AI doesn't just do one search, it conducts an entire buyer's journey of research. How should that change how we think about content strategy?
So, I should say I didn't invent the concept. I have talked about it. It's this idea that when you think about training an AI model, they do this hugely expensive, very in-depth training process where they're ingesting every word that humans have ever written, right? But of course, they're doing that up to a particular moment in time. So if the model was trained last year, it only knows inherently about things that happened before its training cutoff date. And what we know, I think, from now 25 plus years of Google, is one of Google's biggest experiences and biggest lessons has been that freshness matters. An awful lot of search queries. What's the stats? So like 15% of search queries every day are brand new. Some of that is because of human creativity. Some of that is breaking news. Some of that is there are new things in the world today that didn't exist yesterday. And when you take that over a longer time period, and you imagine a model that was trained in the summer, and it's now 6 months behind, the vast majority of things that people are searching for need freshness. They need up-to-date information. Or even if they don't actually need it, they need to check that they don't need it. And so this is where the search queries come in. And this is why all of the chat models and the search tools powered by AI are grounded in search results. And it's actually, I think, one of I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Google specifically because of the fact that they are the only player at the cutting edge of both technologies, right? The search technology and the LLM technology. And the LLM technology, in order to be useful, relies on the search technology. And so I think when we do a simple query into, we ask Gemini, I need some new hiking boots for a walk in the Pyrenees in the spring. And it's going to go away and do a whole load of queries behind the scenes, maybe about the weather in the Pyrenees in the spring, the hiking conditions, the different routes. It's doing all of that kind of research behind the scenes in order to be able to answer and have a conversation with me about what might the best kind of boots be. Do I have any medical problems? Do I want waterproof boots? Do I want this, that, the other? What's my price range? What's my budget? It might ask me those questions, but it's doing that grounded in these kind of fan out queries. It's a long way of getting to the point of answering a question. What does it mean for our strategy? I think what it means is, so I actually really enjoyed the way that Mike King, Mike's the CEO at iPullRank, he phrased this as, it's like buying lottery tickets. Or raffle tickets, right? That you want to be entered in more prize draws. And so what it means is that there's increasing benefit to being present in all of the places throughout that buyer's journey and ranking for all of those queries that we don't know exactly what those fan out queries are going to be, right? We don't know what the prompt is going to be, what the user typed into Gemini, for example. And even if we did know, we can only one at a time find what those fan out queries were going to be. But if there are dozens of fan out queries for every individual conversation, what we're essentially saying is we need to be in more places with more in-depth content, more in-depth answers. We want in our areas of control, right, on our own website, we're probably going to need more FAQs, more review content, more in-depth product information. And I think that's kind of the direction that I'm anticipating a lot of the winning tests coming from when it comes to GEO.
So I think you're spot on, and we connected because I sort of talked to you about presenting at our AI, SEO, and GEO online summit, which we ended up, not a speaker, but we presented actually exactly what you described in that online summit. I'm going to put the link to that presentation right below. Basically, being in more places with the right kind of content so that you have a chance to get into those, not just Google, but also these large language models. And then, by the way, I'm also very bullish about Google. If you think about it, it's the only AI company that's actually profitable at this point. They make billions and billions of dollars of profits every month, every quarter. If you look at, OpenAI, Perplexity, Claude, they're slowly getting there. So I'm also very bullish about
I saw
Google.
a good meme recently, which was a school child's report card. It was kind of this kid had been pulled into detention and made to write lines, and it was like, what did you do? And it said, I underestimated Sundar again. And I think Sundar is quietly has been very underestimated. And there was a moment when people were quite down on Google's prospects, I think. And, I don't think it's by any means all his moves, but you combine the return of Sergey, the incredible stuff actually coming out of London, right? The DeepMind crew and Demis and so forth. And then Jeff Dean and his move into the science leadership, and you put all of that together and it is quite formidable. And I think they not only do they have everything you said, but they also have the hardware stack, right? They have the TPUs, which allows them to compete also with NVIDIA, which is just wild. And I think, it's exciting times. I'm certainly interested to see where they go.
I mean, I watch everything that, Sundar Pichai, the chairman of Alphabet and CEO of Google, said. It's very clear to me, they were caught off guard, right? When
They were,
ChatGPT, but they're catching up. And so,
but they were already scientifically ahead. They were caught off guard
Yeah.
in a product and shipping sense. And so actually, I think they found catching up easier than they would have done had they, by that point, they'd already acquired DeepMind. They already had their TPUs. They were the ones who had they wrote the attention is all you need paper. Actually, they had all the building blocks. They just got caught out on the product side, I think. And I've actually been really pleasantly surprised at how fast they've been shipping recently. The speed with which all of their best models, which are state of the art, have been showing up everywhere. And when they first did, it was kind of annoying. It was like, we'll remember Microsoft Clippy from the 90s. It looks like you're writing a resume. Would you like help with that? It was like that kind of annoying AI interaction. It's become genuinely useful in so many of their products. And the fact that it's not just in search, it's in Drive, it's in Gmail, it's in all these other places. I'm excited.
No, it's mind-blowing. I mean, one thing that I'm going to discuss in another podcast with another guest, I think Google just open sourced their agent-to-agent protocol, which is the next frontier when it comes to SEO and GEO, and I'm sure also testing, right? But hey, God, we're already running a little bit out of time here. Let's get tactical on GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So you've identified 4 levers of influence for AI search visibility. If someone's just starting to think about GEO, which lever should they pull first?
It sounds like an exam question of whether I can remember my own 4 levers, doesn't it? So what I've talked about is the idea that in regular SEO, you've kind of got 3. And it's that you can rank better the things that you currently rank for. You can rank for new keywords, or you can get more clicks at your current ranking. And obviously you can do variations of those things or combinations of those things, but fundamentally you can be improving your rankings, creating new content to go after new rankings, or getting better click-through rate where you sit with better structured data or metadata about the page. And all 3 of those levers, or analogs for them, exist in GEO, but you're ranking for new, or ranking better, or ranking for new fan out queries, or having a more compelling machine readable summary of the page that can feed into the machine's model. And the 4th one that I added is it now matters what the machine makes of your page. So in pure SEO, if you think it matters what the user thinks of your page, right? And so there's that final step where if you think about, you rank well, or you rank better, you get the click, the user comes to your web page, and it then matters what does the user think? Do they convert, right? Do they buy from you? Do they sign up to your email list? Do they do whatever it is that you're hoping they might do? That conversion step, some of that now exists in the machine. And when you think about you do one of these queries I'm describing, right? Looking for hiking boots or something, and Gemini or ChatGPT goes and does its fan out queries and does all of its research, and it brings the contents of all of those pages into its context. It's as if your personal assistant has gone and read 100 pages on your behalf. What's now important, the extra lever that's present in GEO, is if you can be compelling to that agent, that robot that's operating on your behalf, then it's more likely that not only are you in the context data that the model has taken in, but that you actually show up in the answer that it gives, right? So imagine that you're a hiking boot manufacturer, right? Salomon or someone. And if your pages are more compelling, they've got great reviews on them, the product information is really solid, that may or may not help you with the rankings, but it might, for any given performance in the fan out queries, it helps that content was more compelling, more complete, and more trustworthy, because then when it's aggregated, it's more likely that that's the first one. The one you should get is this model from this supplier because they're trustworthy, they're value, they're good value, they're all these other things. And so those are the 4, right? So ranking better, ranking new, click-through rate, or the equivalent, and what essentially we can think of as robot conversion rate, right? So the robot reads your stuff, but does it recommend your stuff? I actually would probably say that if you're getting to this for the first time, I would be probably still investing most of my effort in the 3 that are SEO levers, because they pay off in both places. And the conversion rate stuff, for the moment, I would still be focusing more of my effort on human visitors rather than agent conversions. Ask me again in 12 months and I might have
Yeah.
changed my tune, but right now there are a lot more humans than there are agents.
Let's do a yeah.
So
Let's
that's
do a
how I think
follow
about
up
it.
in 6 to 12 months and see where we're
Yes,
at.
I like
Yeah, I
changing
mean,
my minds.
yeah,
If the facts change, I'll change my position. But right now, we're seeing it. It's exciting that we have some tests, and you referred to it earlier. We're now starting to run GEO A/B
yeah.
tests as well as SEO A/B tests, and we're getting the first results back in. And we've had some positive test results, and they're confidential at this stage. But if you're interested in, we'll be publishing some soon at searchpilot.com, and folks can sign up to the email list and be the first to hear when they do come out. So I can't talk about them in detail, but what I can say is we've had tests already where the change we've made to the website has been neutral, unimpactful to traditional search, made no difference to Google traffic, but has been positive for LLM referrals, for example. And that's really, really exciting, really interesting, because there's so much debate around the industry of, is
Yeah.
SEO just GEO? Are these two the same things? What should we call it, etc. And at least in some instances, we have definitely found that there is a theoretical difference. There are some changes that are better for one than for the other, or even make no difference for one and are good for the other. But that's still pretty tactical for most folks at this stage. Most folks are seeing single-digit percentages of their traffic coming from LLMs compared to half their traffic coming from traditional search. So yeah, if it's me, I'm still focusing more on the SEO, but what I'm definitely hearing is there's executive attention focused on the AI discovery in ways that there hasn't been on discovery in general for a long time. So I'm excited to see what that kind of continues looking like. And the executive attention being under the spotlight is a very exciting place to be when you have data, when you're in control mode, like I say, when you're running a program that you're confident in and you've got the metrics. And so, yeah, we're excited to bring that to new channels.
Awesome. Yeah, and I agree with you. I would love to have you, maybe not on the next AI, SEO, and GEO online summit, maybe the following. So we're going to try to do this complimentary online summit once a quarter because things are changing so fast.
Right.
And what you just said, I mean, it's fascinating. So maybe in 6 months from now, if you're up for it, if you can share some
Hopefully
insight.
we'll have a bunch of test results we can actually talk about.
Yeah.
And the brands who've worked with it.
Well, we'll keep in touch. Is there obviously EEAT experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness? That's going to be one of the differentiators when we get to the point where these agents do most of the searching and browsing on our behalf, right? Can you give away anything, specific tactics that you have tested yet? Or is that something, anything that moves the EEAT needle, or is that something that we could discuss later on in an online summit?
To be honest, I think we've had more of those on the SEO side than the GEO side. But what I would say is I'm not super, what's the word? Evangelical about EEAT specifically. To my mind, it's a means to an end. And it's in particular, for the kind of work we do, it's a means to an end where the end is a good idea, a good hypothesis. So we don't get too attached to the why during the testing phase. The why is really useful at the two ends. It's good when you're coming up with ideas, right? So let's have 5 ideas for improving the authoritativeness of this page, or the trustworthiness of this page. And let's turn those into test ideas that we can validate and see if they actually benefit us, or in fact, if any of them are a bad idea. And then it's valuable at the other end of the timeline when you're communicating to the organization. So you're saying, look, we've had a plus 8% result. And the reason it's a winner is because we added trustworthy signals to this page, and not only has that impressed users, but it's impressed search engines, and it's resulted in this uplift in traffic. And that storytelling can really help with aligning with strategic goals that our customers have and making it legible to leadership, right? So leadership don't really care generally in most organizations about title tags or natural language or duplicate content or whatever. We had a great example of this where the actual test was moving from a kind of SEO title tag structure to a more human readable title tag structure. But that's not what leadership wants to know. What leadership wants to know is that this test was positive and was aligned with their strategy of putting the customer at the center of everything. And so they've got this strategic lens where they're talking about the customer's view. And we were able to say, well, look, this is better because instead of writing for machines, we're writing for humans. And the story that runs through that goes alongside the plus 8% or whatever it might be, and the numbers and the story come together. So anyway, that's a long way around of answering that question, but I like these kind of frameworks or best practices for coming up with ideas and for talking about winning tests. But the bit in the middle is where the data lives. Once it's become a test idea, try not to fall too in love with it until you find out whether it's going to be a winner.
Awesome. Oh, next question. We do my SEO shop. We do a ton with AI. We actually just launched our BSM Copilot AI SEO tool last week. So we do a ton with AI, including content generation the right way. And we'll be interested to see if you do a search for SEO price guide, SEO price guide. Love to see in the UK if you see the guide that I wrote, the Boulder SEO marketing guide. Does that show up in the UK?
Have a quick go at that right now.
SEO price.
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Guess what? 100% AI generated content using our methodology. It's extremely sophisticated AI SEO methodology, creating content the right way using AI. So my question for you, are you, obviously you're not an SEO agency, right? But how do you guys use AI for content creation? If so, how? Have your tests revealed anything about how AI generated versus human generated content performs? Tell me a little bit about that. How do you guys use AI?
So customers do and have is basically the short answer. So our platform is set up so that we can test anything. It doesn't matter where that source came from, whether it's from an agency, a copywriter, an in-house person, or an AI implementation. And yes, a lot of our customers have been experimenting with different ways of generating AI-driven content, going all the way back actually to like the early GPT days where it was pretty terrible, but it was still worth trying. It was still better than that kind of boilerplate SQL generated content that I was talking about earlier. So we've had winning tests going all the way back. And I think recently we've had a fair number, and certainly where it's kind of it's beaten everything but the most expensive other forms of content generation. So when you take into account the ROI, it very often does work well. Where I think we've seen it be best is when it's able to be grounded in proprietary data, right? So there is some reason why this content is better than the content anybody else could write, or the content that you or I would get if we just went to ChatGPT and said, give me an article about SEO pricing, right? What makes it better? Well, what makes it better is your expertise, your proprietary data, your proprietary insights, whatever it might be. And I think we have a number of folks where they have a lot more data behind the scenes than they put on the public website. And when they've used that data to prompt and to ground some of these AI models, that's been some of the wins.
Yeah. So basically, we created Virtual Chris, right? I do a lot of speaking globally. I create net new content all the time, such as this podcast. We then create a virtual me where it has all the knowledge that I have and more. So that's basically the secret ingredient, plus very comprehensive prompting. So yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Let's two more questions if you have the time, Will.
Of course.
Let's get back to SearchPilot. So for someone listening who manages SEO for a big e-commerce site but doesn't have SearchPilot's enterprise testing capabilities, what's the minimum viable testing approach they could implement tomorrow?
My perspective on this is that you think about it like a maturity curve. So I was a big fan of some work that Heather Physiok did pre-COVID. I think I saw her at MozCon in 2019, talking about the SEO maturity curve as a whole. And actually, I would think this answer specifically is more aligned to the analytics maturity curve. And what I would say is the precursor to testing well is having good analytics that is trusted by the business, that is connected to revenue, fundamentally, business metrics, that is aligned with the channel measurements that you want to be making. So step one is the baseline, right? How valuable is organic search to your business? right now. And for the vast majority of folks that we end up speaking to in our target market, it's their biggest channel, right? It's their biggest traffic channel. It's their biggest new customer channel. It's their biggest revenue channel. And getting that alignment with leadership is step one. Having the understanding that they really understand just quite how powerful this is. And that's often even true when you're only looking at unbranded search to deep pages, right? So we're not talking about homepage traffic. We're not talking about branded traffic. We're talking about the kind of stuff that acquires you net new folks who've never heard of your brand until they found you in search. And being able to join those dots, tell those stories, connect that to revenue. So the first actions that I encourage people to take is actually conversations with finance and say, go to the finance team and get them to validate and agree a value per organic session broken down by different, whatever slice and dice you need to do, normally kind of page types, for example. So the value of an organic session that originates on a category page might be different to a product page, might be different in one vertical to another. But having that agreed is a baseline for all of the investments that you need to make and all of the testing that you need to do. And you can start to then report on the next best is roughly year over year data, right? Here's how we're doing now compared to how we were doing a year ago. It's pretty bad because there's so much change going on, right? The rise of the LLMs, as we've been talking about, Google changing with AI mode and AI overviews, the changes with the search results pages and the layouts. So in product search, for example, the fact they're pulling in popular product grids into regular search results, meaning that product detail pages are getting more traffic, product listing pages are getting less traffic. These things are not easy to shake out, but that's step one. Step one is your reporting in those ways around the initiatives that you're taking, reporting year over year performance in language the business understands, that it's signed off and verified by the finance folks. And then you can start making the case for investing in testing, because you can start actually building real ROI cases, real calculators that tell you, oh, look, if we just ran this many tests per quarter, we believe we can generate this much revenue to the business. And crucially, everybody understands that and believes it from day one because it came from the finance.
Awesome. So talking about financial, and then I have one more question. Like, what does a typical engagement with you guys look like? Who's a good fit for you guys, and what's financial aspects you're
Our very
looking at?
favorite, the most ideal customer profile customers that we work with are large retailers. So, as I say, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis, Petco, and our typical rule of thumb is 100 million in revenue online, and probably UK, US, Canada, if not headquartered, at least doing that kind of revenue in those places. So we work with some global brands as well. But they're large, they're big players in those markets as well. We also work with some smaller e-commerce. We work with travel brands, folks like Skyscanner. We work with some media sites and some affiliate sites. But yeah, the retailers and big travel sites are probably the places that we're doing most of our work. And in general, we're working direct with the brand. And so we're brought in by the in-house team. And it tends to be led by a strong SEO leader. So we're engaging with the SEO team directly, and we're augmenting their capabilities, helping them run tests. And oftentimes, sometimes there's an agency in the mix as well. The agencies contribute test ideas and help with the analysis and figuring out why a particular thing was a winner, but particularly with test ideas. But yeah, in general, our relationship is directly with the brand.
Okay, awesome. And obviously contact information right below in the description field of this YouTube video. So if you need help, selling more stuff on your e-commerce website, definitely reach out to Will. Last question. So Will, you've run thousands of tests. Looking at everything you've learned, if you had to pick one change, I hate when people ask me that question, that would have the biggest impact on AI search visibility for most websites, what would that be?
As you say, it's an impossible question because we don't know the starting point. But I think if we let's narrow down from all websites to my more domain of expertise is e-commerce websites, and imagine we're talking product detail pages, individual product pages. I think that for GEO and AI visibility in particular, more information is the broad answer. And obviously the specific answer will depend what you have right now. But if you don't have in the HTML, so without requiring JavaScript, I think one of the key things is Google's really the only LLM provider that indexes JavaScript correctly. So if your reviews, for example, are pulled in with JavaScript, then there's a very good chance that they're invisible to other LLM models. So reviews, FAQs, detailed product information, whatever's missing from that kind of set, specifically in the HTML, not requiring JavaScript, I think would be, if I had to pick something, I'd pick that.
Perfect. Will, obviously, I'd love to have you talk at an upcoming AI, SEO, and GEO online summit. Link
I'd like that.
below. Yeah. Why don't we shoot for? We'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah,
I'll
let's do it.
reach out. And then, so Will, it's been incredibly valuable what you shared here today. I love the conversation. I greatly appreciate you bringing actual data to a conversation that's usually dominated by speculation. I always say proof is in the pudding. I love what you do. Where can people find you and SearchPilot if they want to learn more about what you guys are doing?
So both should be pretty easy to find, searchpilot.com and SearchPilot on all the social media. And for me, it's Will Critchlow on either Twitter, X, or LinkedIn are the two places I'm probably most active, but I'm there on Threads and Blue Sky if you want to come and find me there as well.
Awesome. And then we'll put all the information down below in the description field of this YouTube video. Awesome, Will. I greatly appreciate you making the time. I think it's about happy hour for you. Go to one of those amazing pubs. And I'd love to join you for a pint or two when I'm back in London.
Let me know when you're on the road. Yeah, enjoy your travels.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll talk again soon. Again, Chris Raulf, AI SEO expert here, founder of Bold SEO Marketing. I had a blast. I hope people learned something new. I'm sure they did. And as always, stay safe and healthy, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Chris.